I aspire to be a critical thinker, but I also do, critical thinking facilitation and training and consulting with people. I help people to think critically, which is absolutely crucial skill for the future of work and life. So decision making, problem solving, analyzing arguments, logical thinking, all sorts of stuff.
So Bethan and I met about a year ago. She reached out on Instagram and she said, I'm running this critical thinking workshop, and I didn't have a clue what critical thinking workshop might entail. Anyway, made the decision without the dice and without the coins, made the big girl decision all by myself and went along. And the rest is kind of history. We had our first selfie together and that was kind of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like, this girl's awesome and she wants a selfie with me. I felt like a celebrity.
So I know a little bit more about what you do now in critical thinking, but can we go all the way back to where did you start? Why did you get into critical thinking? Why is this your thing?
Okay, so my background's in education. I worked for UWA's bridging programs for many years when I moved over from the UK, and was asked to write a critical thinking program. And I was like, oh yeah, cool, I can do that. As I normally taught like science communication, effective communication, kind of English media kind of stuff. So I did that and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I learned so much, decided to study it further. Morning, people popping in. So I studied it further and then I was like, this has like lots of uses for personal development. So I kind of took it out of the classroom, trialed as a personal development course for people. And then people were saying, actually, this is good for leadership development as well. So, I see it as something that whether it's for academia, for your personal life, for professional life, they're really transferable skills and useful for all sorts of arenas, and retired people too. I get retired people coming occasionally. They're marvelous.
Well, that is good because what was I watching recently? I was at the Blue Dot Army lunch the other day, and the guy who was speaking, he was talking about how you can train your brain and like critical thinking and stuff like that is really good to try and ward away dementia.
Oh, cool. Oh, awesome. Well, there's another branch to my
yeah, and I was like, must start thinking more decisions. He also was talking about how you should write a shopping list, but you take the shopping list with you, but you don't look at the shopping list until the end of your shopping trip, because then you're using recall memory the whole way through.
Oh.
Apparently that's good for dementia too. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Off track.
I like to think of it like sometimes like mental gymnastics, you know? Like if I'm there going, okay, I need to break down this argument, and there's lots of different ways you could do that, so it's kind of useful to go, okay, right, well, here's the main conclusion, but what actually supports that, and then what's the kind of bullshit emotional fallacies that are persuading me here, and what's the actual good argument, and so it's fun to like dissect stuff and figure it all out. Yeah.
So you do workshops fairly regularly, and the people who listen to Personal Branding Exposed are generally entrepreneurs, business owners. If I was a business owner, which I am, but business owners listening, what would be the key takeaways? Like, what is it they should be looking for in terms of critical thinking if they walk away from your workshop to take back to their business?
I guess the decision making is one of the ways that I've made it really accessible to people in business, for example, because you're in business by yourself, you have to make decisions, you have to move things forward. So I try and make it very practical. We might go through a process where we'll say, okay, what's on your mind? If it's a quick decision, then things like the coin flip that I know you've done, Megan, you go, right, okay, I've got a choice here, I can't quite decide, and you need to tap into your gut feeling. Then flipping a coin, not to make the decision for you, but to see how you feel when it lands, is a really useful way, because if you flip it, you get your heads, and then you're like, oh, I don't like that. You feel a bit disappointed. Then that wasn't what you wanted after all. And then if you get the tails and there's that relief, then you know that it's a good choice. And so much of business is about just quick decisions, go with your gut feel, because no matter what it is, you'll find evidence and an argument out there to support whatever idea it is that you want to go with. So, you just have to go with what feels right for you so often. And then for the kind of slower decision making, you mentioned the dice that I use, which is about looking at things from different angles, whether that be, okay, what's the worst case scenario? What's the absolute worst thing that could happen here? What's the best case scenario? Because we often focus on what could go wrong and not what could go right. And things like secondary outcomes, often we're thinking about a decision and we go with, okay, well, the initial outcome will be good, but then actually maybe the secondary outcome won't be so good. And often what the good decision or the best decision might not be in the short term feeling really great, but in the long term, it's a good choice to make. So, we don't want to go good, rubbish, bad, awful. We want to go, it's okay. Now I get to the good stuff. For example, thinking about LinkedIn, something that we've talked about is like using a pod on LinkedIn. And you might go, okay, great, I'm going to get in a pod and I'm going to get lots of exposure. So I get the quick win. But then down the track, you may have lots of followers, but they might not be people you actually want. Whereas the slow burn, oh God, is anyone reading my stuff? Am I getting anywhere? And then eventually, you start to build it up, make the connections. So that's an example of a quick win and a fail versus painful initial outcome, but then a payoff down the track.
So,
sorry.
No, I'm just going to reiterate that a pod is always a bad decision, but the long game on LinkedIn is always a good decision.
Yeah. Well, and funnily enough, on that, I know we've talked about pods before, and I was like, oh, well, you might as well give it a try. And that's often, something in design thinking and critical thinking. You might go, well, in order to know if it's a good decision or not, sometimes you just have to try it out and get that feedback. And then, moving forward, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So moving forward, whether or not to continue down that track or go, actually, maybe it's not such a good choice. And I'll go with plan B, C, D, whatever you got.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. That's the thing.
Exactly.
So I think that's really important. I do love your coin flip though, because that's one I use still quite regularly. And it's that gut feeling that you're talking about. It's so real. You close your eyes, flip the coin, and the next thing you're thinking, you know what you want before it's even sort of landed. And I guess those are, you don't want to do very big serious decisions with that, but it's still good for what's for dinner tonight.
Oh, totally. And it's funny you should say that. You don't want to make those big serious decisions like that, but often that is how we make those choices. Like, do you want to marry me? Yeah, okay.
I guess.
Which house should we go with? That one. Which job feels right? That one. But it's nice to at least, think about stuff and think it through rationally. So at least if you look back, you go, oh yeah, I did, make what I thought was the best decision at the time. I didn't just go with, following what was popular or what someone told me to do. You want to make the choices based on your own, map of the world, essentially.
Yeah, and I think what you do with the decision stuff is really great as well, because so often we just don't make a decision in the end because we're too busy, will we, won't we, that we'll miss out basically, it makes it for us. So I think having the skills to be able to work out what it is that you actually want and the pros and cons, like your dice is brilliant for that, and you've got some great matrices for that as well. Do you have resources that people can download from your website or check out to kind of find out a bit more?
Yes, I think currently, I'm like, what's on there currently? You can go to the website. There's like a little booklet which has got, I have this compass model which covers some of the key skills. And then within each section of the compass, so there's like reflection, reframing, evaluation, there's a few questions that can sort of coach you through the process. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's still available on there. Or people can email me. I do have the dice available because in the workshops, if you come to a workshop, you get it's a bit tatty, this one, but a free to take home cardboard dice. So you can download that with the instructions. Or if you like, some people really love it or want to start taking it to the pub or to school or whatever, wherever you go, like keep it on your desk, then there are some wooden ones that people can buy, which make great Christmas presents, I'm told. So they're good. They like encourage conversation about a decision. So they're particularly good, if you're trying to coach someone through, or you want to like just help them get their thoughts clear. And that's why, helping leaders think clearly is kind of the tagline, because often we get so distracted and muddled and caught up in other people's opinions and ideas. It's just to help you kind of focus and go, right, what do I want? What does my business need? What does my family need right now? Not what, is my manager or my friend or my mom or whoever trying to tell me.
Yeah, and I think that is important as well, because I've talked about that a lot on this podcast, is, the shiny syndrome, where you go, oh, I need to have that, everyone else has it. You need to start making your own decisions based on what your business needs, because not every business is the exact same. Now, we're catching up on Friday, so I reckon you need to take that dice along and we can have a bit of a play with it, so I can update everyone on the podcast as to how it actually works. Bethan has a load of resources over on Instagram as well, and she's pretty good on her stories. So if you're not quite sure what critical thinking is, jump on and find, it's Bethan Winn Critical Thinking, or you can find her through my page, because we cross-pollinate quite a lot in stories, so she pops up quite a bit, because I do think it's really important. I mean, I didn't have a clue like what you were doing when we first caught up, and I think that, I make decisions, I think every day, but I didn't think about it in a sense of how important it was. And I think that, that workshop I came along to, I came away thinking, oh, actually, we make a load of decisions every day, and you get decision fatigue. Now, that's something I think a lot of women get. I don't want to stereotype, but, I think even of my situation, thinking and making decisions all day at work, and then Stefan says, what's for dinner? Well, then you're doing a mental audit of the fridge and you're thinking what it is. So you're always making decisions continually. And I think we do, as women, take that on quite a bit more. Do you have any tips for anyone on how they can try and get rid of some of that decision fatigue?
I guess the classic stuff is to, make it simple for yourself, have the routines. And it's funny you say that, what's for dinner? I know a lot of people, it's their like worst possible question. Whereas some people love it, some people don't, but like it's quite dull. We have like kind of set things that we tend to have in the fridge. And so it'll be like, oh, well, this evening it will be option 1 of 5, essentially. And then there's like a lot of people I speak to the same. You might go, oh, I can't bother, let's have takeaway. But we have like the go-to takeaway, because it's too much to think of other things. And that's how we make it simple for ourselves. We just have heuristics. You have like, oh yeah, I go to that shop because I like that brand, rather than take those risks. So I think sometimes it's okay to just make things easy for yourself. And I know, particularly since I've been in business, I'm like, right, okay, it's a bit more complex. There's a lot more plates going on. So the things that you can keep simple, whether that is your wardrobe, your packed lunch, going to the same place, there's reasons why we're creatures of habit, essentially. And then, if all else fails, outsource it. Get a magic 8-ball, ask your dog, ask your kids, or whoever's going to help you. And that's, again, you ask the magic 8-ball or a child and they go, oh yeah, we want to do this. And then you go, no, I don't like that option. So it tells you that it was the other option you wanted all along. So yeah, I guess that's some ways you can make it easier.
Oh, I mean, if I asked Stefan every night what he wanted for dinner, we'd be having Nutella 7 nights of the week, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, whatever works. I mean, and this is where there's, initial good outcome, maybe secondary outcomes not so great. I don't know what would happen if you just ate Nutella.
Not so good.
But yeah, and framing it, one of the matrices I use is about, how consequential is it and how reversible is it? And when I see my older brother, I'll out him here, he in a restaurant with a menu, and he'll take like 20 minutes reading it, going back over it, trying to make the decision. And I'm like, dinner, like it's going to be done within 10 minutes of it arriving. It's not that consequential. So that's when, you just go, right, I'm just going to go with, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or however you like to make a choice. rather than get hung up on stuff and overthinking it. And oh God, what if I should have had the pasta, but I chose the steak? Like, this is not where you should be wasting your energy, your decision-making muscle over the day.
Yeah, mental capacity, not on dinner. Got it.
Exactly.
All right, Bethan. So that's all the critical thinking stuff. Tell us a bit more about you and what you do for fun. I know some of the things you do for fun, but tell everyone else.
Oh, crikey. Oh, what do you know, Megan?
Well, I know that you do lots of sport in particular. Are you not doing a triathlon, or you've done a couple of triathlons?
Yeah. So before having kids, I used to do triathlons. I never got to Ironman. I always thought Ironman was too much, but I did a few halves, and so half Ironman distance is still nothing to be sniffed at. And now I go, geez, how did I do that? And between the children, I had this target for myself that I would do another half Ironman, kind of get back to fitness. So did one in Barcelona in 2016, which was probably one of the best things I've ever done, but also one of the most stressful things I've ever done. All those things around, rest and don't be completely stressed out before a race. Don't walk 5 kilometers back to your accommodation after the finish line. That was a bit epic. And it was also ridiculously hilly. And although we've got a few hills in Perth, they're nothing compared to the hills up behind Barcelona. So so that's fun.
Yeah, but you still do a lot of running. I see you doing park run as well.
Yeah, I do shorter runs now. Yeah, and get out on the bike ride, like mainly like a coffee ride and stuff. So so I think movement is important just in the day. And then outside of work, also I do the partnerships for TEDx Perth. So that's really fun. There's a great team there, and we've got an event next week. I'll get it wrong now, WA Climate Leadership Summit. So this is part of TEDx's new taking action in addition to spreading good ideas. They're like, right, let's do something about it. So it's all about climate change. Do some town team stuff. Town team movement are great. They bring business and community and local government together. So I help out with the West Leaderville crew for that. The Flower District, which is fairly new, but lots of exciting things coming up there. So I love anything community, really, bringing people together. I think it's so important for everything, but like just to be human. We need each other, right? And this year's shown that more than ever.
Oh, look, I mean, you need to spend like 2 minutes on your Instagram to realize you're very community focused. I remember during COVID when we had our very short but sweet lockdown here, you and your kids doing deliveries to your elderly neighbours and putting little notes around the street and stuff like that. We actually did the same thing after I saw you write notes to your neighbours, and we then delivered handwritten notes to ours as well, just saying, if you need anything, here we are. And we now have much better relationships with our neighbours than we would have, because, you drive in your garage, you get in your house, you don't really see anyone, whereas we have a bit more of a community feel, and that I'm going to blame all on you.
Oh my gosh, that's so heartwarming. Oh, lovely. Yeah. And the mad thing was, people would see and go, oh, you're so good and you're so good to your neighbours. Like, no, I was going crazy too. Like, I needed to talk to them, even if it was just, hey, can I get you some bread from the shop and stuff? So, it's funny. I'm like, it's purely selfish. I need to get my words out for the day. And if I can't get them with my kids and my husband, then I'm going to go and find some unsuspecting victims in my little like courtyard community here, or people at the shops.
Yep.
Friends on WhatsApp, whatever it takes.
I can imagine.
It's so important.
Yes. So are you from a small town back in Wales?
Yeah, I guess so. It's funny. My husband says it was a village, but it had a Woolworths, not like Aussie Woolworths, but British Woolworths. back in the day, and we had pick and mix. So that was my measure. If it was a village, you didn't have a Woolworths. If it was a big sized town, you had a Woolworths. So yeah, I think it's like 10,000 people, maybe. It's probably a lot more these days. But I grew up very much part of the Welsh community within the town. Went to the local Welsh school, which was like 15 minutes on the bus down the road and stuff. So yeah, and it's funny, my mum always and still is very into all the community stuff. She's been treasurer of everything going in Abergele. So yeah, I guess I grew up in that kind of environment. And my dad, he was the community pharmacist, so he didn't necessarily do a lot outside of work, but his job all day, every day was like, you know, having the chats with the grannies and making sure everyone had what they needed, and you know, liaising. And that was in a smaller village, you know, a couple of places down the road. So you know, we really knew everyone there, and everybody knew Mr. H. And yeah, he was really a big part of that community.
That's funny because where I'm from, Fort William, was similar. It's about 6,000 people in the town, and my mum was the manager of the post office, and very much, maybe not, she was on like a lot of committees as well, but very much people coming and going, and she was a central piece to that, to the town, I guess.
Yeah.
But my dad's the worst. Like, if you go down to the shop for a loaf of bread and some milk, it'll take an hour. Oh, hello, lackey. Hello, lackey. I'm like, how do you know everybody?
Yeah.
Even walking the dogs, it's like, you know, it's just a short walk, and it takes him, you know, double the time because he talks to like everyone. So yeah.
Gorgeous.
And I kind of miss that. Like, I love Perth. I love living here, and you know, this is as big a city, I guess, as I could probably handle. But it's so funny, like when we walk around the lake when my dad's over here, and he says good morning to everyone, people jump. People jump because they're like, so yeah. Very different.
I love the science of that. Like, you know, like in London, I lived in London for a while before coming to Perth. And there's something about, there's a critical mass of people. If there's a certain number of people, we start to ignore each other because it's too much information. And I feel like, you know, if you're walking along, I don't know, up Scarborough, Trigg Way, and there's loads of people, then you won't say hello to them. Whereas if I'm running around, I don't know, Lake Munga, and it's dead quiet, then you say hi. You like, as you get older, I think you do it more and more. But you're just like, oh, hello. Oh, a person. It's like exciting.
And I think when you're from the country, you just can't help that anyway. It's just, you see someone coming past, you're like, hello. So yeah.
But growing up, I was like, oh God, can you stop? It's so embarrassing. Whereas now I'm the embarrassing parent. Hi.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. You look great today.
Oh yeah, I can imagine you were that girl in the bathroom that had to tell everyone that they looked great.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Our mutual friend Lisa Van Geest, also a shocker for that. A good shocker, but
oh yeah,
she's
but
brilliant.
It's nice, right? Why not be nice and kind and polite and give people compliments? You're like, it's so easy to forget. You know, we're all wrapped up in our own problems and issues and things that we're worried about. And so if someone just goes, "Oh, hey, great earrings," and you're like, "Oh, thanks. Cool, that's nice." It just kind of, you know, breaks up the day. And girls are better than boys, generally speaking, at doing that. I think, you know, my husband often says, "Oh, girls are so nice to each other." What?
Sometimes. I think we're the worst to each other and the best to each other all at the same time, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess so. It depends how you frame it. Absolutely.
I love finding out loads about what you're up to, Bethan. So if anyone who's watching, listening to this tonight or in the future, do check out Bethan on her Bethan Winn Critical Thinking. It's quite a long one, but you're easy to find. Yeah, you're quite easy to find on Instagram once you get there. You're also fairly active on LinkedIn as well, just under Bethan Winn. And I've put your website in the show notes and then the link at the bottom here just now. So do check out Bethan, check out her dice, but you're probably going to want her to show you how to use it because you've got some really good material there. But I think without someone to kind of put it in context, it's quite hard, and you do a great job of that.
Oh, thank you. I try and make it as accessible as possible because there's enough philosophy books out there that make things way harder than they need to be. And I'm like, this is useful, practical stuff that can be applied to daily life. But yeah, that's why it's great to, come along to a session, or if you buy a dice, then I often end up sitting down with someone and just sort of coaching them through. And it's always fun to go, oh, and what decision are you thinking about? And then by the end of the chat, they're, off, they know what they want to do. And so you get the instructions, but it's, I can talk anyone through it.
And if you meet up with Bethan for a coffee, she will come on her bike with her nice little basket, and your dice will be in the basket, and you'll probably see her before she sees you, and you'll wave at her and as she tries to find some parking for the bike. Or maybe that's just when we catch up. Thank you so much, Bethan. When can people come to your next workshop, class? What do we call it?
Next workshop's on Thursday morning this week. It's 7:30 till 9:30, so it's an early doors one at the Treasury buildings, or the state buildings in Perth. And then in terms of public stuff, it's probably not until February now, because everybody's kind of sliding into the party season. But yeah, I've got some really cool stuff in the pipeline for next year, and a couple of collaborations as well that I can't wait to share with people. So follow on LinkedIn, or I'd send out emails occasionally when I remember, with updates of what's going on and all the different projects that are happening and what's available to. I'm big on trying to make it as accessible as possible. You don't need to be a big company to get me to come in-house. If it's one or two of you, you can just come along to one of the public open workshops and get, great value, leadership development kind of training for an accessible price for individuals. Yeah.
Before we wrap up, actually, I do remember a conversation we had not that long ago that it's one of the key areas you're really interested in is graduates.
Yes. It's a funny one. Most of the places that are big enough to have a grad scheme are also big enough to take a long time to make decisions. But it's funny that they'll go, oh yeah, this is great for graduates, and then actually they go, I think anyone in a leadership position would benefit from this. But yeah, because being from kind of university background, and I make it very interactive, very engaging kind of workshops. So that's one area that benefits, one group that benefits from the critical thinking workshops for sure.
Yeah, well, I think it's one that definitely needs to look at it, because critical thinking is one of the top 6 soft skills that every future leader needs. So you better work on it now. Anyway, that was fantastic. Your details are going to be in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. As always, awesome to catch up with you, and I will speak to you soon.
Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.